that this is all about how our passion become fashion. And when we talk about climate change, yes, when we talk about climate change, I think we have to talk about nature-based solution and livelihood of communities also. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to see how passionate you are about your work, that you are wearing your work with you. It's excellent. So may I now request Rituraj Phukan, please? Rituraj Phukan.
Good afternoon. I think I'm audible. So I straddle the worlds between conservation and climate change. I'm going to share a very few quick life lessons about why I made this transition to the most important issue of climate change and climate justice that all of us now are struggling with. Around 10 years back, I was on this expedition, and I was called out on deck of my expedition ship on a very cold morning, and we watched the remains of the Larsen B ice shelf. So these huge tabular icebergs were floating around in a place called the Antarctic Sound, and that moment kind of clicked with me because back in 2002, when the ice shelf had started disintegrating, not many people actually believed that climate change was happening. But to see it myself, it kind of connected me to what was happening back home here in Assam with the floods and erosion and displacement of people and all the conflicts. Because we know one of our neighboring countries is the low-lying country, which is most vulnerable to climate change. And we have had incidents of people infiltrating or migrating and people who were displaced. The question arose in my mind, were they the early climate refugees? So then next day, I did my first climate activism by writing a banner and joining the Pacific Warriors Climate Day of Action on March the 2nd, 2013, which was started by 350.org. And that was for climate justice of the 15 Pacific Island nations who would be submerged before anybody else if sea levels continue to rise. So that was how I started, and I got myself trained as a climate reality leader under Nobel laureate Al Gore, who won the Nobel Prize for an inconvenient truth, which inspired like lots of climate activists around the world. I wanted to learn more, and so I went to this place called Churchill Northern Studies Center in Canada. I know if there's somebody from Canada, that's a magical place there. And we did a lot of studies looking at permafrost melting. These are things that I was reading about, but there I could actually participate in experiments. We did a mesocosm, which looked at how nutrient changes in the wetlands are going to affect the survival chances of the 2 species of frogs and 3 species of skittlefish that actually are able to make it through the 8-month long freezing of the wetlands. The ITEX, which is an international tundra experiment, which actually looks at vegetation change at the edge. So we know that vegetation change is a big thing here as well. But that was like, a long time back. So I could really understand all these ecosystem connections that we are now making about how climate change is affecting food habits, cultures, livelihoods, and all of this. So, and then Churchill also has the headquarters of the Hudson Bay Company, the precursor to the East India Company. So Hudson Bay Company is kind of, for me, it stands as the symbol of the colonization of nature. It also is the start of colonization of North America by Europeans. But there is also a very interesting thing. Churchill has the only jail for bears in the world. There is a polar bear holding facility. So if the polar bears keep wandering into town, they catch it and put it in the jail. That kind of it was the most significant symbolism of how humans have dominated nature. Imagine a 12.5-foot, 13-foot polar bear been put into jail for just doing what it does naturally, looking for food. So And then I walked around India in some of the most water-stressed districts, as well as among communities who are affected by human wildlife conflicts. I continue to do so. But right now, my focus is on food security and climate justice for indigenous people. I'm the founder of Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum. I believe, and the science has said that, the solutions to both the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis are in the hands of indigenous people and local communities who actually own, manage, and look after about 70% of the remaining natural places on Earth. And therefore, all the solutions that we are talking about, including nature-based solutions, must be community-led. We'll come to all of that later, but it's wonderful to join you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I now ask Dr. Akshai Kumar?
Yeah. Thank you, madam. And I thank the G20 organizing committee and the Y20 platform for providing me such a great opportunity to talk to the bright, young, budding researchers, the global citizens who are the future, who are our future, and who have to take care of certain aspects related to climate while treading carefully in the current situation where there is climate changes. So now coming to what I do at IIT Guwahati, I'm an associate professor at chemistry, and I practice something what all our young students love to hate, that is inorganic chemistry. And in inorganic chemistry, I do organometallic catalysis, and in catalysis, we transform anything that is waste into value-added chemicals, specialty chemicals, and so on. Now, before I come to the importance of what we do at IIT Guwahati, I want to tell you a few things. See, all of you have flown from different parts of the globe to attend this very nice gathering here, but then you should realize that you have spent so much of fuel, you have left a huge carbon footprint. You have generated so much of carbon dioxide, right? Now, generation of carbon dioxide is fine, but then how will you take care? See, that means we should not travel. That is not the case. We should travel, but at the same time, we should be taking care of the waste that we are generating. That is carbon dioxide here, right? So now we are approaching the peak of fossil fuel usage. We are, but then we are at our ever increasing pace for energy demand. So the energy demand is outpacing the energy that is supply. So the globe is currently at a lookout for alternative energy sources. And at the same time, you have to address the hazardous nature of the waste that is emitted, that is carbon dioxide. Is it possible that we get energy from something where carbon dioxide is not evolved? Is it possible that even if carbon dioxide is evolved, can we transform it to something useful? Can we transform carbon dioxide into polymers? Can we transform carbon dioxide into fertilizers, which our farmers, who are the backbone of the society, can use it? Can we transform carbon dioxide to fuel-grade chemicals? Can we transform carbon dioxide to specialty chemicals? So these are some of the efforts that we are looking at IIT Guwahati, and we are rightly sort of we are supported by a lot of industry partners who are working at net zero carbon footprint. For example, like we have collaborations with the ChemDist group of companies in achieving such objectives. On the other hand, instead of fossil fuels, can we use batteries? So can we use hydrogen? So again, companies such as ChemDist for hydrogen or Reliance for batteries, they are in constant touch with the IIT Guwahati for accomplishing some of the challenging tasks that are ahead. So is it possible that we just take a bottle of water in our car and we fuel our cars like petrol. Can we use water like petrol? Can we transform water into hydrogen? Can we transform feed agnostic alcohols? See, you can get alcohols from anywhere. Can you transform alcohols to generate hydrogen? Can you generate hydrogen from anything? Those are some of the questions that will be of high relevance to all of you in the near future. Because it is like wherever you find an opportunity, you should be trying to convert whatever waste materials that you get into energy related materials, so that by minimally causing any further climate damage. So a clever use of existing extinguishable fossil fuels, a smart lookout for alternative sources of energy, and at the same time taking care of the waste that is generated, transforming waste to useful chemicals. Is it possible that with the existing refineries which are vacant, which are used up, exploited, can we trap all the carbon dioxide into those refineries? Can we just pump in the carbon dioxide and store the carbon dioxide there so that we can use it in a controlled fashion? Is it possible that we can use carbon dioxide and water together to do photosynthesis? Can we generate glucose from there? That is what plants are generating, right? So those are some of the challenges that are in front of you, in front of the youth generation now to address. So with this,
Thank you very much. You have already given them a lot of areas where they can actually work on. May I now ask Dr. Prateek to please quickly give his opening remarks.
Good afternoon all. Am I audible? Alpha to delta, alpha to delta. Is everyone, can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks a lot, for inviting me here and sharing my thoughts with the bright youngsters like you at this prestigious Y20 Inception meeting. We are here to talk about climate change and sustainability. I believe the enthusiasm is sustained enough for my turn as me being the last one after the delicious lunch we've had. So let me start on a serious note. While I was introduced, she spoke about my venture, my initiative called the Green Billions Limited. It's a for-profit company. I floated this company in the year while Paris Accord on climate change was signed, and I could realize that yes, climate change is going to be a real threat to this planet, to the humanity, to the mankind. And since then, we've been working on finding out various disruptive solutions to disruptive sustainable solutions to contain this damage due to climate change, and putting up a strong climate resilience from our side. I appreciate and express my gratitude to Honorable Prime Minister of our country, who gave a clarion call in Glasgow. He floated a global campaign called Lifestyle for Environment. While he actually floated this, I believe the motto of this campaign was to pin down the accountability at an individual level. I wish to, and I take this liberty to utilize this platform to promote and propagate my philosophy of personal social responsibility. While we talk about climate change and disaster risk reduction, it is very unfortunate that we have to actually keep discussing on these lines on a day-to-day basis now, because we have borrowed this planet from our coming generations. If not now, then never. So while this campaign was floated, the motto, the underwritten code was to be answerable on an individual level. Enough of holding the corporates, the institutional responsibilities, but time has come to contribute to give our inclusive, to have an inclusive and collective approach towards containing this climate change issues. While Professor Sahab just spoke about waste management or the fundamental of circular economy, we've recently taken an attempt. It is India's first attempt on waste gasification to production of hydrogen from municipal solid waste. We have signed a public-private participation concession with Pune Municipal Corporation to treat 350 tons of mixed waste for next 30 years, and we'll be producing 10 tons of hydrogen every day. Idea is to again establish that the city's waste can be converted into a superlative alternate fuel like hydrogen and be blended back to the city gas distribution, or for that matter, help firing the industries of the same city. Initiatives like such, me being an entrepreneur, me being a serial entrepreneur, while I could put my neck, while I can raise debts and take such an attempt, I would expect everyone to come together to contribute, do their bit, and that's the only way. If there's a thought process, if there's an origination of a thought process, be Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. So idea is to come together, think together, put our individual and collective efforts to contain this damage, to save ourselves. I always say that there's been a fast narrative over the years that we've been asking to save the planet. One has to understand that planet recycles. It's a legendary example of recycling, reusing and reproducing. Planet was here, is here, will be here. It is us who are in danger. We need to save ourselves. We need to be vigilant. We need to be alarmed and come together to save our generations. We cannot be selfish enough to say that it's been half of our age is gone, or maybe 1/4 of our age is gone, and we'll sustain and contain our lives like this for the rest. We need to see to it that our generation, these climate change issues are becoming mainstream political issues. Governments are facing backlashes. Delhi air pollution, Odisha cyclones, Northeast cyclones, Uttarakhand cloud bursts. So every government needs to answer on these lines. We are the voters. We need to come together. We need to raise questions. We need to do our bit and stop. And we need to anticipate that there's going to be huge disaster. Disaster risks are increasing by the day. And to contain this potential, to reduce this potential risk, we need to come together and adopt sustainability as an underwritten code in our lifestyles. We need to contribute, we need to do our bit, and see to it that each one pick one. While I say each one pick one, we need to pick one cause to reduce the carbon footprint. We need to do our bit. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prateek. It is a little difficult to moderate because difficult to make eye contact, and so you cannot say that your time is up. But anyway, what we can do now is, I was thinking of asking a follow-up question, but since we do not have so much time, if time permits, I will come back to you. But I think it's a good idea to first open up the floor. And if you have any questions, now as you all heard, and you all know their areas of work, if you have a question, yeah, we have one there. Couple of questions, so you can make it for all, or you can tell us whom you would like to address this question to. Yeah, please.
Hello everyone, myself Lipika, research scholar IIT. My question is to the all panelists that the land erosion or landsliding in riverside or due to flood is very common in the place like Assam, and around 4.3 lakhs hectares of land already eroded due to flood since 1950. So can we have any sustainable solution for this problem, as population is still growing and land is reducing every year? So that's
okay. Thank you. If I'll take 2 or 3 questions and then I will probably come back to you. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jyoti. My question is to Burman ma'am. First of all, thank you for everything you have done to safeguard this species. And secondly, my question is, if given a second chance, ma'am, which species will you take to do the same conservation steps, and why will you choose that specific species? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can you please introduce yourself?
Dr. Burman, yeah, you can introduce yourself, but I will just take one more question. And yeah.
Ma'am, I'm Jyoti Roy from Barua College. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, there's one question here. Can you just...
Thank you so much for giving time to me. I'm Indrawati. I'm from Indonesia. I'm studying in University of Lucknow. I'm doing a Bachelor of Psychology. So this is one of my syllabus. So I want to ask you about, you were saying, ma'am, you were saying about behavior changes due to the climate change. So as per we know that we have urban and rural area, and then we have different perspective, we have different behavior. So according to the youth, I am as a youth, so what kind of behavior that it could affect the most to the climate changes? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the questions coming to me directly from both of you. So yeah, first of all, yeah, so saving Hargila is such a journey. It will stop, I think, till my last breath. So, and yeah, so, yeah, but thank you so much for the question, yeah. Now, actually, yeah, I must mention that we are working in different villages. I think you mentioned about villages, and I think we must focus on villages, on the unprotected area. So, like national park sanctuary, you know, here forest is being protected, but what will happen to our all those species, all our trees, all our biodiversity in our unprotected area or in rural areas? So yeah, so again coming to that, so when we are saving Hargila or greater adjutant stork, now we get so many calls from different villages. Everywhere in many villages, Hargila army being formed. People are, even many youths are forming groups to work with us. So it's like, it's spreading like anything. It's not under my control also. I'm very grateful to all of them. But at the same time, when we are working for greater adjutant stork, so some species are also similar, like lesser adjutant stork. So lesser adjutant stork is called Bortocola, like yeah. So then we have been able to save a few colonies also in Assam. The trees were about to being cut down, and so people believed that it is Hargila, and then they called us, and then we were there, and this way actually a few colonies we could save. So I want to spread this behavior sense community conservation model to many other species, but through you. So please think, I request all of you, what will be your first step towards conservation, towards climate change? So I want to work with many youths, many future leaders, and now we are replicating our conservation model with lesser adjutant stork. And as I have mentioned that yes, we want you to come forward and to work for many species and about the habitat landscape. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I addressed her question also a little bit, but I can elaborate more later. Thank you.
Ma'am, I would like to ask a question.
Would anybody like to take the question on the...
Yes.
The flood and erosion?
Yes, please.
Okay, I can quickly attempt to answer that. I just refer quickly to the Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment of 2019, which predicts about 95% loss of glaciers in the region, in the eastern Himalayan region, if warming continues at the current rates. And if you were to even be successful in limiting warming to the 1.5 degree as envisaged in the Paris Agreement, we'll still be losing about 2/3 of the glaciers by the turn of the century. The problem is the region has already warmed by 1.3 degrees Celsius. So we are going to see a lot of glacial loss in the next 20, 30 years, right? And that means we know that a lot of water that comes down the Brahmaputra and all the tributaries in this region, about 30% or more is glacial meltwater. So we are going to see probably more floods and erosion in the short term. What are the solutions? Well, I think this would be a fit case for loss and damage, probably. This is where we need to put in efforts, especially the younger generations, to ensure that climate justice is delivered to the people who are being affected by such calamities. Then we also have this global facility for quick response that was agreed upon in Sharm el-Sheikh. I don't know how much of money is there in that, but there was another thing which the UN Secretary General insisted upon, was to ensure that we have a early warning system in place for all the vulnerable communities around the world. So to ensure that people who are living in the front lines here, suffering from erosion and floods, at least have advanced warning and the resources to be able to, move away or rebuild their lives.
Okay, all right.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Monica, this side. So, my question is, like, yesterday we witnessed, various tribal communities of Assam, and what we could get is that they are living in so much harmony with nature. Every hut that they made, like, they had their own way of living, and it was very sustainable. There was no plastics used there, and the cooking methods and even the almiras and everything was very like the bamboo and all those objects used. And also everyone had their own style of making clothes, which was of course again natural. So what are we doing to learn from the past so that we stay in harmony with the nature? Maybe I was thinking if my kids will learn this in school, or maybe they see or witness it more often throughout the country, they learn more to how to live sustainably with nature.
Okay.
So,
So
could that be a solution?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is anybody else? Yeah, please, Akshai. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a very relevant question. I think somehow all of us missed that point of plastic, the hazards of plastic. See, I think it may not be possible to use the same, the household items based on bamboo or wood or whatever it is. But then, though we use plastic, we can make it biodegradable. We can make it biodegradable instead of using waxes that sort of do not allow water to seep in. We could use edible waxes, and in fact, I think the plastics can be made biodegradable, or the existing plastics can be transformed into specialty chemicals, which can be further used to make plastic. So there are two aspects to address it. Either make a biodegradable plastic, which would easily degrade into the soil in a certain period of time, or else the plastics based on fossil fuels, basically the benzene, toluene, xylene mixtures, which are based on fossil fuels, you try to break them apart back into the starting materials, so you can use them on a renewable basis. So this research is going on in IIT Guwahati also. If you just look into the stalls, there are mature technologies wherein people are, I think the group of Professor Vimal Katiyar is working on biodegradable plastics. There are other groups which are working on converting polyvinyl plastics or polythenes into liquid fuels or liquid specialty chemicals. So the efforts are ongoing in this direction.
Okay, thank you. Can we just take two additional questions first, and then they will come back? Yeah.
Namaste to everyone. I'm Arnav Roy from IIT Guwahati, and I'm working on hydrogen storage. My question is both on a technical background and in a conservation background. So right now I'm working in a technical background, but when I was in school days, so I was very high for conservation and nature, but I lost touch with it. So even when I joined PhD, I see PhD like after doing the research, there are very limited options. So how will you address the youth to take conservation or research as a initiative to be self-sufficient in the future? Like if you are going into conservation,
Sorry,
how can you?
I'm interrupting because there are so many hands to be taken care of. May I request you to be a little quick in asking
Yes.
the
How will
question.
you like advise the youth to take conservation or research as a self-sufficient option in future?
Okay. Okay. I'll come to you. Yeah. Quickly, there is one question out there. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I am Ashmita. I am doing MTech in Geotechnical Engineering. So my question is for Rituraj sir and Prateek sir. As they mentioned about food security and carbon footprint. So since climate change is a global concern and since a large part of atmospheric carbon dioxide is fixed in the soil by microorganisms, so do you feel that global policy changes related to protection and rejuvenation of the soil is pivotal towards bringing down the climate degradation? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. We'll come. We'll open it. We'll open it again.
I missed on the name of the young. Yes. If you could. Arnab. Arnab, I really appreciate that you could pop
Dr.
this
Prateek,
question.
I have just one request. Little quick question so that I can, answer so that I can take 2 more questions from the crowd.
Okay, so I'll just then, cut my answer down to a fact that you can speak to me. We can discuss it some other time. The Green Billions is willing to back any disruptive solution, any research. In fact, my current venture itself is driven by a 25-year-old kid who's passed out from IIT Powai, and he's done his master's from material sciences. He's worked with Bhabha Atomic Research Center for developing this reactor, which we are adopting. So, youth, today's youth, I call them vision-driven youth. If they want to be self-sustained, if they want to be self-contained, enterprises like us are very much welcoming. There is so much of sustainable finance, green finance, which is being, which is being almost up at the anvil. You can get in touch, and we can take things from there. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one more question
Excuse
on
me.
carbon footprint and food security. Anybody would like to
your question on the topsoil, right? And carbon footprint and food security. Of course, the entire world is now focused on regenerative agricultural practices as well as natural agriculture that we have been practicing, especially in the indigenous and local communities around the world. That's how food should be produced. So there is this entire movement to go back to the way we used to produce food before industrialized farming took over. That also means eating seasonally. That is what everybody can do actually.
Hello, I am Kaustubh Narayan from NIT Mizoram. Dr. Shilpi talked about the nuclear fusion stuff, and the thing is, it's been kind of alarming to me since recently we got the news of a nuclear fusion breakthrough, and that happened in an American institute. So are we expecting this like a nuclear fusion warfare or something? Because the prospect of nuclear energy is very, I think hopeful is the word I'm looking for. But it's also very dangerous. So how is it going to impact the climate and all? And are we also going to play a role in as a
Shilpi,
country?
if you don't mind just taking from what he has mentioned, actually this was a question to both you and Dr. Akshai, is that, can you explain it to the audience that both of you mentioned several times the question how? How do you resolve that how? What are the gaps that you see in resolving that? How can we make use of all this potential that we have?
See, what we feel is that every solution has a positive as well as a negative aspect. If we are traveling on road by a vehicle was meant to travel for transportation, but you may get into accident. Okay, so I know the scale of the nuclear fusion or the accidents or the risks associated with are a lot. But we need to provide some solutions which are sustainable, where we see the positive sides of it. We are in the first session, we have all heard about the positive sides without declaring the war, the peaceful sides of the how to make the peace impact and all. So it is about how we perceive the notion. It is not about taking the negative part ahead. So, Dr. Akshai, you want to add on?
Yeah, so this is in response to Anamika madam's question, how do we do it? See, for example, you know, you have at home kids, they watch their mother cook, right? Mother cooks, she takes things in a particular ratio, mixes, and then she makes a particular dish. The cook, the child, he just superficially replicates that. He tries to mix things and make something. But then, you know, I'm just sort of just correlating, because Mother Nature already has the solution for this. For example, I'll take one example, carbon dioxide to glucose. Mother Nature already does that. She mixes carbon dioxide and oxygen and transforms into glucose. What, as chemists, we need to do is to understand the intricacies of that and try to replicate, and that research is going on. There are glimpses of results wherein people have transformed carbon dioxide to glucose, but that has to be done on a higher scale, and that's very much possible if we sort of understand how nature does it and try to replicate it. And this cannot be done in isolation. This has to be done with collaboration, because, for example, I know maybe one part of it. We need support of industries. We need support of other expert areas, biologists, chemists, together in collaboration with industries, and with appropriate funding, they can achieve such transformations which are very useful for the overall well-being of the mankind.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Mohana Priya. My question is to all. Different views on common but differentiated responsibilities struck on free flow of climatic finances that leads to increased emission level. So what are the ways that G20 address this issue?
Could you get the question? Can you quickly repeat that?
Different views on common but differentiated responsibilities struck the free flow of climatic finance leads to increased emission level. So what are the ways that G20 address this issue?
Common but differentiated responsibility. How does G20 addresses that issue?
I think the issue of common and differentiated responsibilities was kind of more or less accepted in COP15, Copenhagen 2009, right? And that's why the developed countries agreed to pay 100 billion each year from 2020 to the developing countries to mitigate, as a mitigation measure. But that hasn't really happened. COVID pushed back that, and till now we do not have that 100 billion that was promised. Just to continue on that finance line, I do not know about the G20, I'm not able to do that, but many of these nations are part of G20, so it's possible. And when it comes to adaptation funds as well, we are seeing a lot of commitments. Every year we see doubling of commitments by individual nations or a group of nations like the EU. And then at Sharm el-Sheikh last year, we had the loss and damage finance facility. So these three are basically the three pillars of the Paris Agreement, right? Mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage. And all three are falling back or not been implemented as they should be because of the lack of funds. And even the loss and damage finance facility that was agreed upon, basically it's an empty bucket now, and we'll only know after COP28 in Dubai actually how the finances fall into place. So I think that's the best answer I could deliver here.
Okay, just before you, because I can see already mics in your hand, but we can maximum accommodate 2 questions. You go first and then you, and don't distribute the mics anymore. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Yogendra Rathore, pursuing MTech in BSB department at IIT Guwahati. My question is, are current and future policies adequate to address the waste management challenges posed by growth of industry, especially in light of aiming to attract foreign companies to set up operation, given the existing issue of water, soil and air pollution associated disaster faced by our India?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just take one last question and then maybe we can close it.
afternoon, everyone. My name is Surbhi Vyas.
You can put it a bit closer.
Yeah. So my question is more relative to socio-economic perspective, as all of you are working on different aspects of climate change. So after we are listening, climate is changing from last few decades, but still the loss and damage is happening. Still the people are they are going to migrate. But my call is are we more focused on coping strategies or the adaptation strategies? Because from the last decades, if we were more focused on the adaptation strategies, so don't we think the hazards and the climatic stresses should get lowered?
Okay. Yeah.
If I got your question right, did you ask about the policy interventions in this space, the evolution of policies by the Government of India, catering to various waste management technologies to do with air, water and soil? Is it right?
That's right.
Not really. We have something called Atal Mission on Urban Regeneration and Transformation, and we have set guidelines for solid waste management, which falls under Ministry of Urban and Housing Affairs. And each and every company, in fact, even a startup which is registered under DPIIT, they can come and propose any of the solutions they have, and government is quite engaging and entertaining. Even if there's a competitive bid, there is a mandate to pick up services and products, average of 15% from startups. So, various issues like EMDs, earnest money deposits and all also are being exempted. So if you have any solution, you can definitely look at various portals of the Government of India, especially primarily urban development, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. They have set guidelines to answer your questions. Thanks.
Anybody has anything to add to any of the questions?
Excuse
me, but
sir.
very quickly, briefly, yeah. You want to respond to that?
Actually, I can't resist myself when one ma'am was talking about harmony. So yeah, when we talk about climate change, and so we must talk about harmony and the coexistence. And yes, in Assam we practice coexistence and harmony, and at the same time we have conflict also. But we have our ancient cultures that always help us, and we are in a biodiversity hotspot. So yeah, so we practice that. And I want to add here, when ma'am said among our communities with our women Hargila army, when we are conserving the bird, we are integrating this bird into our culture, into our tradition. So I want to share with you everyone that we celebrate Hargila baby shower every year when the bird is breeding. We celebrate the breeding season, and yeah, we celebrate happy hatching, and we our women integrated the Hargila bird into their folk songs. We have Nam Kirtan. So I want to say everyone that I think someone was mentioning to all the youths, please have your own recipe. It must be in a different way. It must be through Nam Kirtan. It must be through a big meeting. It must be through any recipe. You must you must develop your own recipe towards climate action. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, very quickly. Yeah.
There was a question about how long climate change has been happening and what is not. I think the first New York Times headlines was about climate change and the threat it poses to humanity happened over 100 years ago. And the electric cars have existed as long as fossil fuel cars. I think we made the wrong choices. And just very quickly adding to something about how sustainable our villages are. 20 years back, if you were to go to a village in Assam, they were very neat and clean. There was a local bakery that used to be driven by a man on a bicycle, with a cart, and they used to deliver fresh homemade biscuits and cakes to every household. And there was no plastic litter. But now all of that has disappeared because everybody watches on TV that only this brand of bread or this brand of biscuit is good for you or should be eaten or is cool to do so. And now all our villages, picnic spots are full of mountains of plastic waste. single-use plastic waste. So we made the wrong choices.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So this brings to the end of the panel discussion. It was a very, very diverse discussion that we had. So it is very difficult to, summarize everything that was discussed. But in a very, simple way, what I could actually see, the message coming out from this panel is that it is the responsibility of each and everyone to, understand what is climate change, how we can actually ensure that climate change can be mitigated. And I always say that what you demand is what is produced. So which means what we consume, what we grow, all matters. So given that, I think it is the responsibility of the youth, all of you who are sitting here, to make conscious decisions of what you are wearing, what you are eating, where you are going, and keep your carbon footprints as low as possible. So with that note, a round of applause for all the panelists, and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished panelists, for such an insightful panel discussion. Now I would like to request the officiating director of IIT Guwahati to felicitate our distinguished panelists with a token of gratitude. Before that, I'd like to inform that we'll be taking a short break after the felicitation. So I'd like to request everyone to visit the exhibition stalls placed just in front of the auditorium. After that, we'll be served tea at 4 in the hangars, and it will be followed by our next session, which will start at 4:15 sharp. So the audience is requested to be back by 4:15. So I'd like to request our officiating director to kindly felicitate our panelists. I'd like to request everyone to please stay seated. I would like to request everyone to please be seated. I would like to repeat once again that we'll now take a short break. So I request everyone to visit the exhibition stalls just outside this auditorium. And after that, we'll be served tea at 4 in the respective hangars. And it will be followed by our next session, which will start at 4:15 sharp. So the audience is requested to be back here by 4:15.